Move to this story as well. The BBC is set to target its diversity drive at news and current affairs after figures showed the department has the highest proportion of privately educated staff. Data from the corporation's Equality Information Report has found that over 22% of employees in the news division went to independent or fee-paying schools, whilst in the management ranks the figure is as high as 34%. Equally, managers in news and current affairs are more likely than other departments to come from families in which at least one parent had a university degree. Will Wyatt is former director at BBC TV. Will, afternoon to you. Does this surprise you? Is this more or less what you thought from your own experience at the Beeb?
It doesn't surprise me, I fear, and I think it's a jolly good thing to try and do something about it, because really the BBC ought to reflect the nation back to itself. Everybody has to pay a licence fee who's got a TV, and thus you should make sure that you're listening to all those corners of the UK and the different hidden parts of it that you might not otherwise be. And I think you make different decisions and you think differently if you've come from an area, say, where work was short, perhaps your parents didn't have full-time work, perhaps where there was huge cultural change, whatever. And I think this is a way of getting at it.
Isn't there an irredeemable reality, uncomfortable as it may be, that if you've come from that kind of background, your parents have degrees, they're university educated, and then you've gone on to university as well, the reality, not digestible for some, is that you probably are better educated and could be argued you're more qualified?
Well, you may be better educated, but I think over the last 30, 40 years, certainly the last 20, I would argue that there are masses of people who don't have that background, who are intelligent, well-educated, capable, and have the sort of talents that news reporting and news editing require. It's not just that the people you're mentioning haven't got it, they have, and lots of them have, and as they've had advantages, 3 cheers. But I think there are an awful lot of people missed. And that's what I think Tim Davie is trying to get at. Let's get out there and really poke around and try and find good people who might not otherwise have applied at other times.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering how that works at kind of interview level or at CV level. I mean, will there just be a nice new shredder brought into New Broadcasting House where CVs will be unceremoniously thrown in if the word Oxbridge appears anywhere?
No, I think it's a matter of trying to beat the bushes and make it clear to people that you're interested in their backgrounds, their point of view, and if they've got the talent, come and work for us. I mean, it's not that you haven't got to shred the applications of those who don't have all those qualifications.
I mean, in terms of when you were at the BBC, you were in very senior management. Your own background is the aforementioned Oxbridge, and was there ever a discussion point did you ever talk to fellow workers and say, it's a bit weird, isn't it, that we all went to the same university? Did that ever come up as a discussion?
It did come up, and for my during the 80s, so as well as my day job, and I was head of documentaries, I also chaired the graduate training scheme for television, and one sort of tried to find good people from all backgrounds. I have to confess that we did take an awful lot of Oxbridge people. The fact of the matter is, they're the people who apply. They come whizzing with confidence and experience and having done interesting things, as well as just be very well educated and have a kind of personality that's required. But what we didn't do and should have done was to get out and make sure there are a lot of other places where there are incredibly talented people, lots of other universities. Oxbridge has always been great. It still is great. And when I went to university, it was a place you'd aspire to if you could get there.
Sure.
But a lot of other good universities then, and of course even more now.
And equally, I think it would be a crime if we suddenly decided that if you went to Oxbridge or another good university, wherever that happened to be, that you somehow shouldn't get a job. I mean, that would be awful too, wouldn't it? But we're talking about, parity and proportionality here.
We are. I mean, let's be clear. You're never going to stop clever people from Oxbridge getting big jobs in this country. It just won't happen. There will always be high quality and quite a lot of them. The fact of the matter is there are a lot of other high quality people that perhaps have not been coming forward or the BBC hasn't sought out before. At the moment, 22% of the news people is a fifth. It's not a terrible proportion, but it's an awful lot higher than the national average. 6%, I think, went to private schools. I didn't go to a private school, but I knew a lot of people who had.
And in terms of how this would manifest, back to the sort of interview process when people are applying for good jobs. I mean, there's a chairman job going at the moment. We thought it had gone.
Yes.
But apparently it's now vacant again. You weren't tempted,
so we
Will.
understand.
You weren't tempted, Will. Can you hear us okay, Will?
I lost you for a moment then.
Sorry. No, I say you weren't tempted by the chairman gig.
Oh, no. I'm too old, and it needs somebody with with different experience. I'm an old hack,
and a much respected one as well. We're more than delighted, Will, that you've been on with us today. Thank you. We appreciate your time. Will Wyatt, who's a former executive, former director of BBC TV. He was chief exec of BBC Broadcasting. He was there, as he said, head of documentaries. And he did have that background, but understands that there's a need to somehow try and find a way around navigating that so that it's open to other backgrounds. I'm just not sure how that happens. A mate of mine, she used to work on our radio programme some years ago. She actually went to Oxford and Cambridge. Look at her, yeah, we used to. And I remember saying to her once, why would people favour Oxbridge? This was about not over favour universities over non-university. This was Oxbridge over other universities. And she said, well, they should do, because you've had the best education in the world and you've worked your socks off to the point of near death. That's why more people from those universities get in. And then you read, a Stephen Fry book who says, I pretty much did nothing when I was at Oxbridge. It was more or less a party. I don't know what to believe. I didn't do either of those things or attend a university. So if I was applying for one of those senior management jobs at the BBC, I've just got a feeling it's the confidence thing, isn't it? It's the confidence thing. When I was a kid, I remember going to this drama group where I lived, and it was because the drama teacher thought somehow I was quite good at this sort of acting thing. And I don't know why, because I can't think of anything more miserable right now than being an actor. Good Lord, can you imagine? But so I went along to this thing, and it was full of mostly, a lot of privately educated kids. And the one thing that jumped out was this confidence thing. I couldn't get out this phrase, how are you? I've said this before. Hi, how are you? It's like, you're only 12. Why are you talking like that? How are you? Where I was from, people would go, all right. That was a greeting. All right. All right. And that's all you got, really. How are you? In a very sort of clear tones. And it kind of terrified me, this. I thought, where does this come from? And they could enunciate and speak, and there was a fluency and a confidence. And so when you get to the stage where somebody's advertising for the Director General of the BBC, you can understand why, somebody who came from where I grew up would not fare so well as, a kid that can say, how are you? At an interview. I can see that kind of tipping the scales in their favour somewhat.